we have truly amazing speaker. I'm extremely excited to have Agus Sudjianto as our speaker. Agus is Executive Vice President at Wells Fargo. And, you know, from my perspective, Agus and his team did something that I thought like truly impossible. So they found architecture for machine learning models, including neural network models, to be explainable and have robustness when they work in a very adversarial production environment. For those who are in finance, they know how extremely challenging it is. And this is, you know, like #1 challenging issue for any financial company. Agus, I'm truly looking forward to learn from you today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Sophia, for the invitation, and thank you, everybody. We're going to keep it very informal, so I'm going to go through some slides, and we're going to have a lot of conversation and practical side. I promise you there will be a goodies at the end, okay? I promise you, fresh goodies. The publication will be out probably in a couple of weeks or so, so you get a sneak peek that you're going to hear it first here, that deep neural network will be very, very interpretable, okay? And the detail will be in the paper that will be upcoming, and how to test robustness of deep neural network will be also very, very simple. Unlike all the exoteric techniques out there that you have to do computationally expensive mixed integer programming or exoteric lipstick bound or anything. You don't need any of this, okay? So you will hear it first here. So I promise you there will be a real goodie today. So I give you a sneak peek on this one. So thank you again. I would like to do it a little bit advertisement first, if I may, because we are in the season of hiring for fresh graduate and also for summer interns. So if you know anybody or you yourself about to graduate, be it with master degree or PhD degrees, we have in the recruiting season, every year we recruit about 40, 50 people graduate, be it master or PhDs. Every year that's what we do. And we put them in the cohort. We rotate them to a different job in the model development and model validation. We have community of 1,000 strong quant and data scientists. That's the you will be part of that. So so we are in the recruiting season for that, as well as for summer internship. So some of you that are interested in, please look at my LinkedIn. I posted the position in LinkedIn, so follow that. Okay. I will talk today, focus on explainability and robustness. This is very near and dear in my heart. I think many of you that in financial institution also thinking about this, and many of you that is in the critical, mission critical environment, like in healthcare or anything. Okay. And after this talk, I would like to get your reaction as well. If you're going to allow deep learning to drive, to do self-driving for your car after my talk, okay? So it will be interesting discussion after I talk about the explainability and robustness later, all right? So let's do that. Start with one slide that I would like to do for some of you that's not in financial institution, not in banks. So some of the listener here, audience are in the banks. So banks professively use model. We do it for financial model, credit, market, liquidity, you name it, the traditional financial model for capital management, investment, etc. But we also do a lot model for non-financial model to do customer service. For example, if somebody make a phone call because you lost your credit card, you make a phone call, you want to get replacement. So when you call, your voice will be listened to our machine learning, and to listen where you're calling from, what line do you use, what phone you're using, your background noise, your voice biometric, to assist the people that answer the phone to say whether this call is fraudulent or not. So that's just an example on the customer service. And we do a lot customer complaint. As you know, bank has a lot of complaint, a million of them every month. because we're serving very, very large customer in the US. And those things has to, we just have to use machine learning to process and to route the complaint, because every complaint in the bank has to be resolved within 10 days, right? So that's a requirement. So we use model. Financial crime detection, marketing, compliance, staffing, for example, on the trading floor, we monitor the behavior of traders to make sure there's no collusion and all of those things. So you heard a lot of scandal in trading floor. So if you really heard the news, and some of them are things that our peer bank just get fined almost $1 billion because of trading behavior kind of thing. So traders are monitored, you know, using machine learning in terms of their chat, their conversation and their things. So we use for both financial and non-financial model. Now, when we use model, every model create risk, both financial and non-financial risk, and especially in a regulated entity like bank. Okay, that's why we have to govern the model end-to-end life cycle, from the inception when people want to have model all the way to when the model in production, you have to be monitored. Before in production, have to be independently tested, and then you have to monitor to retirement. So every model in the bank, we have to know what they are, what's their status, what are the weaknesses, etc., etc. So we have independent model validation group that's very, very established and standard in every bank. Those are the people that create pain to model developer, right? So model developer, they build model. I have my friend here, Andre, on the call. Is we created pain, you know, the model validator, make sure they're going to break the model any way they can. They're going to show that the model is bad. So that's life in financial institution. And when we talk about machine learning in particular, is very, very rapid adoption of machine learning, especially in probably the last 3 years. So we do it as a alternative for statistical model, especially in credit and financial crime, apply supervised and unsupervised machine learning. We use it as alternative to more established statistical techniques. Sometimes we use it as model benchmark. We compare how good the model can be, even though probably the real production still a traditional statistical model. We use it as well a lot as model diagnostic, to do variable selection, to do feature engineering, if the model in production will be statistical model. So we use this very, very pervasively in bank. Also in the area that previously no model. This is talk about compliance, conduct, risk, customer assistance. A lot of natural language processing model for this, right? The handling customer complaint, listening to customer complaint, all of those things are area that in the past we don't use model. Nowadays we use model in particular because model perform better than human being to do complaint handling. The performance of model to classify correctly is better than human being. So that's what we have today. And then the other area that we use is area that numerically very, very intensive, solving high-dimensional differential equation. So this is in the area of derivative pricing, like equity basket and things like that. In the past, we do a lot of simplification so that we can solve it through Monte Carlo solution. Today, we can use deep learning to solve stochastic PDE. In the past, we do a lot of Monte Carlo simulation, parametric. Now we can use generative adversarial network as an alternative to do a non-parametric simulation. So that's just broadly. Now, when we use model, just about say all models are wrong, some are useful. I say differently, okay? I will say all models are wrong, and when they are wrong, they create harm or damage to the user or the institution or the customer. We know all models are wrong. That's why we have model validation to look at how wrong the model can be, and when and what is the root cause of the model. So it's front and center for us in financial company. We need to understand model risk, meaning when the model wrong, what kind of harm, and how wrong can it be? How much wrong can we accept it? So that's very, very important for us because it creates either financial harm If they are for credit, market, or liquidity, they can create non-financial harm, reputation, compliance, and legal. For example, if our credit decision is discriminatory, that creates compliance issue. And if our machine learning that listen to customer call is discriminatory, people that's non-native English speaker like me will be flagged more, have higher false positive. That's not acceptable because that's discriminatory, and that create reputational risk or legal risk for us. So there's a few examples. If we use model for hedging, the problem we can do mishedging that create market risk, we can lose money very easily. Financial crime or conduct surveillance, we try to detect, right? Try to detect suspicious activity. If it's wrong, then you have a problem like is SBC that have problem with the with that. So it's a big issue in the financial crime for this. Even something that somewhat seen very mundane, staffing, how many tellers that we need to put in branches. So that can create reputational risk when customer waited too long because not enough tellers. So that's I talk about credit lending on the creating fair lending discrimination. Online marketing, it seems very straightforward, right? You get product offer all the time, every day get product offer. When you go to Facebook or Instagram, you get product offer. You go to online banking, you get product offer. In banking, it's very sensitive issue because how do you get product offer? It's information from cookies. And cookies, we know, it's demographic. People with different age, different socioeconomic, using and visiting different websites. So that's dealing with privacy and fairness, particularly in California, dealing with privacy, but fairness that can create legal risk. So all of these things that's really high in our mind all the time when we want when we're dealing model, especially with machine learning. Okay, a lot of problem that can be problematic in machine learning, from data defect bias, conceptual soundness. We're going to talk a lot about this because this is at the heart of explainability. Model robustness, this is the problem with people in machine learning. Obsession to model performance. People, it's like Kaggle competition. You want to get the best, right? And you tune your model, tune your hyperparameter, do AutoML to get best model performance. You install it, you put it in production, real world change. It has drift, right? Data drift, your model that is the best, it can be very bad when you put it. So we're going to show a few examples at the end about model robustness. Change control, model change, retrain all the time. We have to monitor. Why? Because model that's good at the beginning, no fairness issue, you retrain it, learn from the data, it can be have problem. So model change control, very important, and model use control. So I'm going to talk about, focus on the two subjects, on the conceptual soundness and model robustness. Conceptual soundness lead to explainability. Okay, very important. When we talk about trustworthy AI, trustworthy artificial intelligence, we cannot get away from the explainability and robustness. Very important. Outcome testing is not sufficient. People get so fixated with outcome testing. How good is it in terms of accuracy? How good is it in terms of AUC? How good is it in that? It's not enough, because we need to know, does the model make sense? Can we trust the model? And we need to understand, how's the model going to fail? And we're going to show an example later on this when we're dealing with deep learning. In a critical application, explainability is a requirement, is a must. In the credit decisioning, we know in our industry, we have what we call it reason code. If you decline credit approval, you have to have a very clear explanation. It's a requirement. And then robustness, real world are dynamic, as I said, right? How the model is going to perform in production under adversarial environment or under changing, dynamically changes environment. How do we know that model will perform well? So you have to do all those testing very, very upfront before you put model in production. So I spoke about my criticism on AutoML. We train model with static splitting data training and testing. That's static. Real world is dynamic, real world. So things that you do based on the static environment has to be tested for robustness. So these two are core and central in the trustworthy AI in the model risk. So that's what we're going to talk about. A lot of techniques in interpretable machine learning. Yeah, one is post hoc interpretability, myriad of tools out there, LIME, SHARP, PDP, ALE. We have our own tool, you know, we built a lot of post hoc interpretability. A lot of tools have this one. Scikit-learn has this one, right? So a lot of that. Well, very, very wonderful and useful tool, but many of those are overly complex. If you have a litigation because of your machine learning, I would say good luck to explain all of those to the jury and to the judge, right? So we need post hoc interpretability that very naturally, very, very simple. So we're going to talk about that as well. Model distillation, we can use complicated model, distill it very, very into a simplified model to explain. So it's not perfect, but it's able to explain. So decision tree is very popular to do that as a model distillation. Or the things that we like to do is, instead of the node is the tree, the node is really the terminal node, is simple regression equation. So basically you have a local linear equation that is very, very highly interpretable. The other thing that I'm going to talk more today is building from the ground up self-explanatory machine learning model. This is very important. I'm not using post hoc interpretability. I'm not going to do model distillation. I am going to build high performance machine learning model that is self-explanatory. So one of the things that we do is what we call it as explainable neural networks. Basically, I'll talk about it in very, very simple way. Yeah. One of the things is what we call it is additive index model. Basically, we constrain the network instead of fully connected. We break it down into submodules. So this is the input. I am going to this, what we call it projection layer, which is very simple, basically just linear equation. I have very few of them. And one of that, then you put a deep learning for nonlinearity. If we have very few of this, yeah, and this projection is very sparse, then this model becoming interpretable because I can see the linear equation just like regression. And then once you do it, become one-dimensional, so you can see what is the nonlinearity. So this is the way we do it through architecture constraint. So we make it very, very small number of projection. We make a one-dimensional nonlinearity, and then we combine it at the end. So you can have what we call it as additive index model. It has a paper. You can read our paper in archive to see this. This is an example. It's basically you can see what nonlinearity, what variable are important in each module. In this one here, an example, we have 4 modules and what variable and what nonlinearity. Very, very clear. This is, we call it a self-explanatory model, right? So because a model, I don't need to use post hoc analysis. I don't need to use model distillation, and the model itself is very, very interpretable. We can make it what we call it as adaptive explainable neural network. We have paper of this as well in archive. You can look at it. So what this one is basically is I'm using what we call it is at the beginning use what we call it GAMNet, generalized additive model. One variable, very clean, one variable coming in, nonlinear, you come up. So the model is just one variable at a time, and then you combine, you grow it into with interaction. So you can grow the model through boosting or stacking to make the model more and more complicated, maintaining the interpretability. So you can look at this in our paper in archive called Adaptive. If you go to archive and look at my under my last name, you should see this paper, how how we grow it from simple univariate, we call it, people call it GAM, generalized additive model and statistics, and grow it into more complex model in a very interpretable way. Now I'm going to go to the goodies here. How about fully connected neural network? Okay, fully connected ReLU network in particular. I talk about ReLU, the activation function is ReLU. This is very interesting. This is the model that you should use. Why? Because if you want to be fully connected, you don't want to do constraint like what I talked before, this is the model that you want to use. You want to use deep ReLU network because deep ReLU network is local linear model. Let me give an example. Yeah, this is I have input here. This is x1 and x2. Yeah, so if I look at x1 and x2, this is the connection. The value of this is 10 in here. So 10 bigger than 0 in ReLU, so it's positive. So the node is on. And then go here, the node is on again. You get the final one. Every ReLU when they're on is a linear model. You combine with other linear model, it's still linear model. And then at the end, it's still linear model. So when you go sample per sample in ReLU network, you can find all the local linear model. So we call it configuration. Basically, what node, what hidden neuron is active for each sample, you trace it, you get the configuration, and for each configuration, you have local, you get the linear model, and you also have the sample partition. So what the deep learning does is doing data partition. They partition it, which configuration, which hidden node is on and off, which linear equation, so sample will belong to that. So here's an example. I put our mortgage data in here. So you can see we run deep network, deep ReLU in here, and you can see here, this is showing percentage of data. First region, first configuration, it has almost 80% of data, half of half, class 1 and class 0. This is detecting whether it's default or no default, you know, class 1 or 0. What is the accuracy, training accuracy and testing accuracy. And then region number 1 is very small sample, one class only in that, okay? Sample that fall into that partition, one class only. This is the accuracy and so on and so forth. Once we have all those linear model, because linear model is very simple in this example, it's x1 plus 4x2 plus 2 for this sample, okay? For x equal to 2, x equal to 1, this is the linear equation that's active. You have another sample, you put it to the network, you can trace the configuration, you get linear equation. Once you combine it, you can get all the linear equation that the network active. And you can plot the coefficient. So in here, you can plot from x1 to whatever. You can see what is the effect of variable. So the model is extremely interpretable. We know exactly. So deep ReLU network is local linear model. And here we go. Here's all the linear equation. And we can see it as well. How many is that? And you can see in here. Let me say something. If I have, for example, network with 2 nodes, very simple, yeah? Single layer network with 2 nodes. How many potential linear equation? It will be 3, because the first node active, first node only, or second node only, or first and second node, both active. So a network, small network with 2 nodes, 1 layer, it has 3 linear equation. So if I have n hidden node, a single layer, you have potentially 2 to the n minus 1. If you have 100 nodes, 2 to the 100 minus 1 local linear equation. Not all of them are used. Not all of them are used because you have very small sample, much smaller than that. Only a few will be used in this example. You can see here, only a few will be used. And a lot of them are very, very wasted because it's only a single class in this example. You see here, a lot of single class problem. And many of those, very, very small sample size. You look at in here, very, very small sample size. And worse yet, a lot of combination of local linear never get exposed to sample. Yeah, a lot of local linear model doesn't have any sample at all. Think about that. You let your deep learning drive your car. In a certain situation, that linear equation, the network never get exposed. Will you let that? Right? This is why I came from engineering background. I came from engineering background when we talk about reliability. At one point in time, the engine that I designed, the throttle body got frozen in the cold winter in northern Canada. 5 out of 1.2 million engine. We have to do recall. We have to recall all the engine and fit it with heater on the throttle body so it won't be frozen. So think about that. The potential failure can be small, but when fail, it can be catastrophic. Deep network has so many local linear equations that never get exposed to the data. So that's reality. So this is exactly why my apology, let me go back. We use it to really understand what are all the local linear in the deep network, how are they performing in this example. We can see each region, how they are performing and how wasteful they are. Only one class, no, not two classes. So then you can simplify the network. So that's an example of how to make it very, very explainable. Deep ReLU network is local linear model. No more than that. So why don't we open it up for question and answer, then I can go to a few examples based on the question and answer. So you see it, you hear it first here, that deep neural network, ReLU network is local linear model and can be very, very interpretable because you have all the local linear model. Once you have all the local linear model, it's just like regression model locally.
Okay, so we're opening up Q&A session then?
Yep.
Okay, hold on. There are many questions from the community.
We have a lot of questions in the chat. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. So, okay, the first question from Akshay about the summer internship. Is this opportunity also available for masters?
Yeah. Internship is for master and PhD, both. So it's for both. Any graduate student in STEM, as long as you are in STEM, and econometrics is included in STEM. So we have a lot of people with engineering background, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, physics, math, stat, econ. We open them all with the people with STEM background.
Wonderful. So question from Paul, are external auditors also used to test your models? Basically, do you use like third-party auditors?
Yeah, and few people that's in model risk here, we can chime in, like Andre can chime in as well. Our model is scrutinized all the time by audit as well as by regulators. Yeah, regulator can come anytime. FRB and OCC and those regulators, they have army of PhDs. Yeah, they have army of PhD. They have their quants. They're coming. They pick any model. They scrutinize it. They challenge you. And if it's unsatisfactory, and you think your testing and your model risk management is just not sufficient, they will ding you with matter required attention or MRAs. That is your red card. Basically, you have to solve it, and you sometimes becoming a big problem because they're going to criticize. We found a few samples. That means your entire system is terrible. So you have to fix your entire system. So every bank's under that scrutiny all the time.
A question from Dave. Could you explain how deep learning can be used for stochastic PD solvers? PD, I assume, is partial differential equation.
We have a lot of paper in archive. Yeah. what we do is basically you do time step. So you have a PDE, you formulate this as backward and forward and backward stochastics PDE. So the time step, each time step can be represented using a deep learning. So it's a big model to do time step on the stochastics differential equation. You can see some of the latest publication that we have in archive. You should under my last name, but also a few people in my team also wrote a very, very nice tutorial that you can read. So I will be happy to give you a link after this, Sophia, to give a link to some of the tutorial that is posted in archive by my team member.
Sure, yeah, we will share with people, with everyone who signed up for this event. So a question from Alexandra. So from her perspective, you use interpretability, explainability interchangeably. Mm-hmm. From her perspective, those are not the same.
Sure, people can define it differently, and they should probably. I use it very, very casually. And for me, explainability, I came from statistical background, right? You need to have interpretable model. If you have interpretable model, you can explain it. And for me, the most explainable model, the most interpretable model is linear model. And that's the beauty of ReLU DNN. Yeah. If you do even tree, it's not very explainable when it's deep. Yeah. Even tree when it's deep is low. So if you try to explain GBM or random forest, you need to have post hoc analysis. So I'm more the kind of person that really likes self-explanatory model than model that require post hoc analysis. I'm not against anything about post hoc analysis, but it's just my personal preference. I prefer self-explanatory model if you can.
Okay, many people ask for slides. I mean, since the talk was interrupted due to technical issues, can we also share the slides with people, right?
I will send you the slide after this.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
We have a question from Andre here. Fully connected deep ReLU network that were presented, you are suggesting local explainability where local can be very small. The regulator and public are probably trying some reasonable definition of local within 10 points. This is very, very good point, Andre. This is what we do. Yeah, we do post-processing. We don't stop at deep learning. Let me go back here because this is let me share my screen because it's very, very important point. Yeah. Look at this. Some area are very small, sample, and also one class. Those are wasteful. So the first step that we do, we combine. So we don't use deep learning blindly. From this outcome of this, we reduce, we combine local model so that they are becoming more reliable. Once you combine them, yeah, once you combine it into local region, and you can combine it through nearest neighbor. If you look check our paper that will show up in 2 weeks, you will see the algorithms, how to combine them, basically. Yeah. You combine them. Once you combine them, you can do anything you want. I give you an example in here. Once I combine it, at that local region, I apply support factor machine, actually. Yeah, because I know support factor machine is margin learning. It's the most robust. Right? So what we do, this is a typical thing that we do. Once I know the local region that's not very useful, one class only, that's combined. You cannot have one class and very, very small sample. You combine, you reduce it, you simplify it. Now I control it. I know this is the region that is going to be active. If I have new sample during usage outside that region, then you can create warning. Oops, new sample, I'm going to do extrapolation. If it's self-driving car, it need to give warning. I never see this one before, help. Yeah, this is what we talk about model safety. When we talk about model safety to do extrapolation, because I know I'm going to local region that very small, I know it's not reliable. So it's very, very important point. This is what we do all the time to create trustworthy, reliable deep learning. You cannot, in my opinion, just train deep learning and let it loose. That is very, very irresponsible.
Thank you, Agus. Like right now, I understand what you mean. It became much more clear. Thank you.
So this is very important. We're going to release the tool as well to do this thing. So you can have all this thing and you can do all kind of things. Deep learning is a wonderful machinery. If you know how to use it safely. Otherwise, it's going to be disaster.
Yeah, thank you.
So there's a question from Paul Starrett. So he doesn't understand the reach function. Whether the reach function is calculated in your diagram.
Yeah, reach function is learned by the network. Yeah, when you train it. This is an example. This network here is the reach function. You train it through backpropagation to learn what the reach function, to learn the nonlinearity, learn what this submodule does. Yeah, what this submodule does is really doing nonlinear mapping from one dimensional to another one dimensional. That is each of this. The network learn. This is what the network learn.
So question from Robert, do you use TensorFlow model analysis?
We do TensorFlow. We use PyTorch when appropriate. And that's our neural network training is either TensorFlow or PyTorch. That's what we use. And then, but we don't stop right there like I showed you before, right? And then you analyze it. How is the network doing partitioning? How's the local linear model and things? So we have our own tool to do that. Okay, so TensorFlow and PyTorch is the starting point, is the workhorse. I show you the adaptive explainable neural network is all TensorFlow that we use. So you look at the paper that we have, it's done through TensorFlow.
So question from Seva. So how exactly you convert the model inference from numbers to human understandable format? This is
the discussion that I had before. Let me go to that. A few things that we do, yeah. We call it, for example, it's if it's for credit decisioning. My apology here. If it's for credit decisioning, hang on 1 second. Let me go to this. A few things. If this is an example how to make it into interpretable format, right? So we know what factors are significant. Let me give another example in here. In here, this is all the variables. Some of these are FICO score, LTV, blah, 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 a lot of variables. So we know what variable important here. In this case, is FICO. What are the other things? Loan to value. So we look at what variable are significant, just like linear model, right? Linear model is like this. You see what coefficient? Variable x2 is much more important than x1. So we translate this into, if it's credit decisioning, then we translate it into what we call it reason code. If the loan get declined, why it get declined? Because some variable, a certain variable below certain value or above certain value. So that's what in the reason code. So you translate from linear equation that is very, very interpretable into what is the real variable and the threshold. Okay.
Some additional question here. Yes, but it's only limited in case you make a decision that is interpretable by some linear function. I mean, assume you have some two factors that excludes each other, so it won't work here, correct?
What's that? Like, I'm sorry, can you say it again? Two factor?
You make a decision based on X or B, for example. So it won't be supported by linear regression, even like in local models, in local linear models. These are the limits of this explainability, correct?
Yeah, from the local model, from local linear is very clear, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. from local linear, you can see what variable are active, what variable are important, what variable are not important. So you can see it, look based on the variable important, how decisions are being made. That's the explainability.
Okay. Thank you.
For example, in here, we decline or we approve the loan based on FICO score or loan to value, right? So your loan to value is too small or too high, loan to value is too high, or the FICO score is too low. Then you can see what is your FICO score, what is your loan to value, then the approval decision based on that.
Okay, let's move on to the next question then, from Ricardo. How is performance affected with the re-architecture?
You will be very interesting. This is an example that I have. Let me see. Yeah, in this example, depend on some situation, right? It's case by case and depend on some situation. So in this example, I have a big network. A lot of network are only one classes and very small samples. So we collapse them into three in this example, for the sake of discussion, into three local region only, instead of 100 local region into 3 local region and only. And then from 3 local region, you can compare what is the original network performance, what is the result from after you collapse them. So you can compare it before and after.
Okay, the next question is, are the local linear models parameters re-estimated as you train through batches? If so, do you also keep track of their performance and do you analyze those over time?
Once you have local linear model, you have a choice. Do you want to keep it as it is from your original training, or do you want to retrain locally? Right? Because you have the sample, you can retrain locally, you can run regression, the standard regression. You don't even need the batch size or whatever those things anymore. Once a local linear model, if its decision is if it's a logistic regression, or you can apply logistic regression, multinomial regression, you can apply that, or you can apply linear support vector machine. You can do all of those. So whatever you wanna do, or if it's linear for regression problem, is local linear, you can run regression. You don't need to do a gradient design.
Does the challenge of does the number of variables pose a challenge to interpretability and validation of your model?
Of course, yeah, of course. With too many variables, will be very difficult to interpret. So, but you can do it. You as a trick, right? All of you that in machine learning, you have the you have lasso, right? So you can do lasso, you can do L2, you can do L1 penalty to make the model more sparse and more interpretable. So that's very important point. In fact, if you look at in here as well on the additive structure, we apply lasso as well in here. It's sparsity. You apply lasso in here, you apply lasso in here. You apply lasso on the input, so it will be more sparse in high dimensional. You apply lasso so that not too many sub networks. So yes, you can apply regularization penalty to enhance interpretability.
Okay. So question from Neeraj, in your XNN and AXNN models, how do you enforce your sparseness and orthogonality constraints on the parameters?
You apply the penalty function during the learning in the objective function. Part of the objective function, then you put orthogonality constraint, and you also put sparsity constraint. We have paper in archive as well. So search, if you go to archive under my last name, you should see that. Or if you have IEEE journal, it's published in the, I think it's last month IEEE journal as well, in terms of how to impose additional constraint to control the structure of neural networks. So you can look at the IEEE transaction in neural network, the latest issue, you should see it there, or you can just go to archive, look at the archive under my last name, you should see it.
Okay, wonderful. So question from Ajay, do you use anything for adversarial attacks? Basically,
yes. Yes. So we do, and some of you that interested in that's in the natural language processing, you go to archive as well, search under my last name, you should see an example how we do adversarial attack in the natural language processing world. So you can see that. I explain in here, if you use ReLU, you have all the local linear model, you know exactly, you can calculate the distance of each point in each region, the distance to the decision boundary. And that distance is how you apply your adversarial attacks, basically. Pick the point that is the closest, perturb that's your adversarial attack. Of course, if you do it for natural language processing, when you perturb it, it needs to semantically preserve. Semantically makes sense. So in natural language processing, it's a little bit tricky because you have to preserve the semantic meaning. So that's the paper that's in archive, how we do it.
Okay. So question from Robert, how important do you feel feature selection is to interpretability?
Well, of course, very important. And this is not only that, yeah. In our world, we look at interpretability all the time because we want to see the variables that are chosen are meaningful and economically or from business point of view makes sense. And this is very important in machine learning. Why? Because we're throwing so many variables. Many of them are correlated. If I give an example. This is a very real but naive but real example. If I want to do approval for credit card, if I just throwing variable, the variable that important that will show up is the size of line of credit. The bigger the line of credit, the better it will be. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Okay, the bigger the line of credit is, the better the credit quality. It doesn't make sense. Why? But the data show that way because we give big line of credit for the people who have good credit quality. Okay, we give big line of credit for people with good credit quality. But if that's the data show up, so if you train blindly with all of those things, it will show up. Line of credit size is important variable. That doesn't make sense. So that's the value of, I talk about conceptual soundness at the beginning, right? Interpretability is so important, front and center for conceptual soundness. Does the model make sense? This is why the testing for performance only is not sufficient in machine learning. It's misleading, and you cannot do that. You have to have explainability so that, I give you an example. If I have two variables that highly correlated, I run the big networks, all GBM. This thing can be zigzagging, very nonlinear, zigzagging. The prediction outcome is still correct. The model doesn't make sense. That's exactly what we need in interpretability. Make sure that the model is conceptually sound. The variable are important in the local linear model. In the local linear model, like ReLU, I can see the sign. It's positive or negative, makes sense or not. If the effect of unemployment make the credit default, the higher unemployment, the credit default is lower, it doesn't make sense. Right? So that's what's important in the interpretability, to understand the conceptual soundness of the model.
Yeah. Question from Paul. If you use ReLU for explainability, is there an accuracy cost? For example, the accuracy versus explainability.
So you mean if you, instead of using ReLU, somebody want to use tangent hyperbolics, or you want to use a sigmoid? Is that the question that you sacrifice? By
Paul,
ReLU,
can you
why not
elaborate?
other activation function?
Paul, you have an option to unmute yourself. Can you elaborate?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly right. I'm assuming you just went over this, actually. You said that explainability trumps, no pun intended, trumps trumps performance. So you've answered the question, I think.
Yes, yes. Well, the answer is you probably, if you do regression, the function is very, very smooth. You may get slightly better with smoother function like sigmoid or tangent hyperbolics, slightly, but is it worth it? Because you sacrifice the interpretability. So that's one. Two, if you train a deep network, you have a lot of gradient collapse, to use all of those. ReLU is easier to train. And ReLU is, to me, because I came from statistics training a long time ago, right? ReLU is very, very sound from, it has a lot of theory in spline, but basically it's piecewise linear spline. So yes, people can use higher order spline, B-spline or anything, but you sacrifice the interpretability as well. So I would really, I love ReLU because of naturally it's super interpretable. I can look at the network, I can repair the network. Where the network is weak, I know exactly. So in this situation, I can see the performance in each area and what's the performance is good or bad and how to improve it. And here I know the biggest sample size, the network performed the worst. Now I can break this one further. Let's improve this region to get a better model. So ReLU allow us to have something like that. So I think for me, it's a lot of advantage.
You make a great case. Should have been a lawyer.
Question from Aldo. Could your approach also tell a consumer not only what variables were important, but what if it would take to obtain a favorable outcome? For example,
yes.
Go from loan denied to loan approved.
Of course, yes, of course, because I'm using this very simple, right? Yeah, it's almost like adversarial. What will it take to flip the decision, right? That's what the adversarial model robustness is all about. What will it take? What is the minimum things, the shortest distance to decision boundary that will flip the decision? Yes, it will. But that means also adversarial is about if it's you apply the model in the security, cybersecurity piece, it's about how to hack a model, right? Mm-hmm. In our adversarial for surveillance, for monitoring, how to circumvent the detection. That's why in model validation, they do this adversarial testing all the time to understand how the model can be circumvented, how the model can be hacked, how the model will be wrong.
A question from Paul: do you use transformers? I mean, it's so trendy right now.
Well, to me, it's very simple. Yeah, a lot of we call it in an exoteric way as a transformer, but I would say this one. Yeah, and we do a lot in Andre knows this one probably because we do a lot in CCAR, loss forecasting or stress test. So we have to predict 39 months ahead. Every month, 39 months, how big is the loss that we have, right? So we have to predict 1 step, predict 2 step, predict 3 step, predict 4 step. This is this horizon model, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step is the staple in the financial institution to do loss forecasting. Transformer is like that. You have the attention model is I'm going to do attention of this. So we call it attention model. We call it in the industry we do it horizon. Call it horizon model. So we do with a different twist. If it's a natural language processing, yes, we use as it is. But long before that attention model, we always do it in the financial for loss forecasting and for stress testing. We never call it attention model, but That's what it is. It's the same concept. So you can see in the attention model today, we don't need recurrent network anymore, right? All you need is attention, right? So we do that. We do that the same thing in the our loss forecasting model. We don't put auto regressive. We don't put all of those things because you can just jump, predict how many steps ahead directly. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Sorry for the convoluted things.
So, question from Andre. So, Wells Fargo involved in substantial machine learning AI research and sharing it publicly. How does Wells Fargo support such dissemination of information across machine learning community?
Well, the thing is this, we are very, very heavily regulated. And we need to make our regulator very comfortable that we know what is the risk of this model and how we manage it. And that's very important because unless the regulator trusts that model risk management can do a good job on this, they will not allow us to apply machine learning. We have a lot of scrutiny. Andre, you experience it, must be in Capital One, right? Have a lot of scrutiny from regulators.
Yeah, I need to be very careful about what I'm saying because I'm not allowed to speak publicly about the company. I can only express my own opinion. But you know that the industry is heavily regulated. Yes, and machine learning.
At the end of the day, we put it out there. It's of course, when we put it out there, we don't put it just out there, right? We already use it for a while. We think okay, then when they put it out there, I think it's to make sure it's education. That we know, and we want to stimulate as well other people to work on this subject so that we all benefit from this. The carelessness, the irresponsibleness using machine learning and the hype of machine learning is deafening, right? Every vendor, everybody, they want to do this thing. It's deafening, and many of them very, very irresponsible. So we need to put this one out there so that people really understand this, and it's to use machine learning safely, and people have trust. Financial institution is all about trust. We experience it badly, right? The misbehavior what happened in Wells Fargo, I acknowledge that, right? You have tarnished reputational damage. It's very, very difficult. So the last thing I want to have is we're tarnished because of model. You see model wrong. When model wrong, it creates all kind of effort to the institution. So I think it's too important to keep it within. Of course, the secret sauce that we have to make it work in less painful way, we don't publish that, right? But the framework we publish.
Oh, actually, thank you very much. I did benefit from your publications of approach, and I did use it. Cannot give the details, but it was very helpful. Thank you very much. It was so easy, so straightforward. I just can't explain the simplicity. It's just almost where's the secret sauce, and until you realize that this small epsilon that makes it so simple.
Yes, that's what we're looking at. This is part of it that I like the ReLU local linear model. Explainable. I don't have to do all the exoteric of PDP, sharp, and all of those things. The model is self-explanatory. Everybody that understands basic statistics, they can understand it.
Interesting question from Robert. How often do you retrain your models? How do you decide when to retrain it? And do you use a pipeline like TFX for training?
We have model monitoring program. In every model that we have, the performance need to be monitored, be it the performance or also the input, what we call it as population drift, right? Data drift, performance. So we look at the model performance and then look at things when it need to be trained. So we don't do, we have very, very, very small few models in the marketing world that has online trainings, but in general, we don't do that. In particular, in credit world, if your credit model needs frequent training, you have terrible model. Okay, this is why the robustness testing is so important for us, because upfront We tested for robustness. When we put it there, will change the model still performing. So we don't do frequent training, unlike all the people that talk about frequent training in machine learning. That's a terrible model to do that. Of course, you have some application, some area in marketing or some area, it's probably right. But for critical mission model, we don't do that.
A question from Paul. Is AML, AI unique among the various areas?
AML?
Yeah, Paul, can you please elaborate on this?
Anti-money laundering, you're talking about? AML is what
Yeah,
AML
sorry. And I'll stop asking questions. I really enjoy your being able to speak to. I know how AML is different in AI, but I'm wondering, is explainability as much of an issue with regulators and so on with the AI that's in the AML area? That makes sense?
The AML is out. You're talking about auto ML, or you're talking about
no anti-money laundering?
Anti-money laundering, yes, yeah. A lot of anti-money laundering is very it's a very interesting area, because this is few things. It's the area it should be ripe for machine learning, but anti-money laundering world are people that's very scared. So even terrible model, they still put it in production, terrible model. Why? Because other banks also use that model. So a safety in number. I will not get criticized by our regulator because the other bank also using that model. So that kind of tension that happened in the anti-money laundering world, it should be very ripe for machine learning. Yet people are a bit skittish, because people are afraid of regulatory criticism. So that even though my model is not good, but I'm using vendor model, and my competitor, my next door competitor, also use the same model. So if we get criticized, it's not only me, everybody also get criticized. So that kind of thinking in AML is still very deeply entrenched. Safety in number. Does that make sense, Paul?
It does. It does. Thank you. Yeah.
I think that's most of the question. Yeah, I think we can wrap up. I posted the link to our Slack community, so we will share their recordings, slides, papers. Also, you can check out our meetup page of this event, where we also will post this information. And also, you always can reach out to me or Agus on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm going to send you, Sophia, the PDF version of my slide, okay?
Yeah.
And feel free to distribute it. It's already cleared out by our corporate communication. And then I will send you a few links. I have question on the deep learning for PDE. So I'm going to give you the link of tutorial from a person from my team. And also I'll give you a link to my archive, okay?
Sounds great. Yeah, and then just a reminder, guys, Agus is hiring, so.
Yes, hiring. So look at the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn post, and if you know anybody or you yourself want to apply, the one that we open is really more entry level for fresh PhD or fresh masters. So if you know anybody looking for a job, and also we have internship. So if you have any cousin, any friend or anything, please do that. So connect in LinkedIn and follow my post. Thank you so much.